ladies and gentlemen, it's Sarah here again from Never Out of Books. Welcome back. Today I just wanted to let you know about the 12 classics plus 2 alternates that I'm going to read in 2018. I decided to make a actual list and join an actual challenge because the year that I did this, which was 2 years ago, not last year, I had a really great reading year despite forcing myself to read classics, and so I kind of wanted to recreate that again because this year I felt a little bit like all over the place. Life was just so crazy, and so it felt like, well, let's see, maybe reading classics will ground me a little bit more again. I don't know, we'll see. So I am keeping myself accountable on it's a Goodreads. If I'm explaining this correctly, they want you to choose 3 old school classics, which is published prior to 1900, and 3 new school classics, which are published between 1900 and 1999. That is their definition of a classic. Maybe not necessarily mine, but that's okay. That's their rules. And then 6 wildcard books, which I believe don't necessarily need to be classics, but I did choose classics of some sort. Once you have chosen the books on your list by the 31st, you are not allowed to change them again throughout the year. They do allow you to choose 2 alternate books for if some reason you can't get a hold of a book or you open up to the first page and you hate it already. You can say forget that and read one of your alternates if you'd like to. So I will let you know what I've got on here, and I've got some chunkers. Yep, because I'm like that. So for my old school classics, I am going to read Dombey and Son by Charles Dickens. This will be my Dickens for the year, and this book is over 1,000 pages. It is huge. Charles Dickens and I have a very tumultuous relationship, so I am very interested. There's a booktuber whose name for some reason is totally escaping me, who summarized this book in a way that made it seem like this could possibly be my favorite book of all time. So we will see what happens. Second book is Wives and Daughters by Elizabeth Gaskell. I read North and South. It put me in a reading slump. I wanted to read it over and over again. And I know that Wives and Daughters is a very different sort of book, but I want to read the Gaskell. I want to read it all. And I want to watch the miniseries that come with them because that's how I am. And again, this is another one over 700 pages. Third old school is 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea by Jules Verne. I own this book in this beautiful edition, again, packed away. And I was just feeling it might be time to read it instead of just having it sit there. And I thought it was different than some of the other books that I have, and so it's on there for fun. For new school classics, I am going to read The Hound of the Baskervilles by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. I read The Study in Scarlet in 2017. It was pretty good. I'm just interested in continuing with some of his books, so we got that on here. We have 100 Years of Solitude by someone with a name I can't pronounce and remember, but it is a pretty famous new school classic novel that has some very interesting reviews on Goodreads. Some people really, really hate it, and some people really, really love it. So I'm interested to see where I fall with that. I also am going to read Murder at the Vicarage. I'm not really sure how you're supposed to say that. By Agatha Christie, the Queen. This will be my Agatha Christie for the year. Not that I can't read more of her books if I want to, because I love her. I believe this is the first Miss Marple. I have not read a Miss Marple. So, yeah, I'll do that. My wild card selections are The Enchanted April by I can't remember who. And this book is just like an enchanting book, people say, and I own it, so I'm going to read it. I also would like to read Kim by Rudyard Kipling. I did not really like The Jungle Book, believe it or not. I read that, I don't know if I read that this year or the year before. I didn't really really enjoy it, but I own this book. I did not realize it was more of a middle grade novel, so maybe I'll get through it a bit quicker. It is not very large. I don't know. I'm just very interested to see if I like this or not, and it's about a little boy named Kim who is raised in India. So we'll see what happens. I also have on my shelf, packed away, the Book of Imaginary Beings by, I think it's Borges is his last name. And that seems like a really interesting book. There's like pictures in it, and it's all about these imaginary beings. It's almost like a nonfiction, only these beings are imaginary, and I'm kind of intrigued by it and why it's a classic. So I'm kind of interested by the whole thing. I don't get, so I'm looking forward to doing some research on this and seeing why this is a classic in the first place, I guess. So get to that. I also want to read I Capture the Castle by Dodie Smith, another book that's like a coming of age young adult and has very interesting reviews. People love it or hate it. It's a chunker. It's over 500 pages. It's almost small compared to some of these other books. It's another one I have sitting on my shelf. I want to read it. And then I have the 21 Balloons, which is a translated middle grade Newbery Award-winning book. And I have just heard about this, and it keeps showing up on my Goodreads as something I should read. And I never read it in school, but I've heard of it, and I don't really know what it's about. It's also short, which is a good thing when confronted with reading Charles Dickens again this year. My alternates, which I may read anyway if I'm doing really great, and so you may see these. We'll see. Jane and Prudence. And this is a retelling of Pride and Prejudice, I believe, but it was written in the 1940s. So if I can get my hands on that, I really am kind of interested to read it, because people write Pride and Prejudice retellings that are contemporary to our time, but I'm very interested to read one that's contemporary for the 1940s, which is still historical to me. So it's kind of interesting to me. And last, but definitely not least, is book number 14, and that is East of Eden by John Steinbeck. People have been raving about this book. I have only read a Steinbeck short story before. I read The Pearl. It was amazing. It's one of those books that's just, it's amazing and yet you hate it kind of thing, because it's sad, and I'm not really keen on that. This is also a chunker at a little over 600 pages. But I'm supposed to love big books this year. That's one of my goals. So we'll see. So those are 14 books, 12 of which I am ironed in to read this year. I would love to know if any of you have read any of these classics, what you think of them, if you are doing a classics challenge of some sort yourself. If you'd like some accountability, we can talk to each other, whatever you need to do. If people are reading some of these books this year, and I've never done a buddy read, but if people are interested in reading any of these with me, I'd try to figure out how to buddy read. And I hope that everyone has a wonderful 2018, and I'm looking forward to seeing all your stories. Bye.